Can I share this table? The question floated into the crowded cafe like a fragile whisper, but when she looked up, the man standing there made her heart jolt. She recognized him immediately, not from life, but from rumors, headlines, and warnings whispered among employees. Adrian Cole. The billionaire CEO who rarely smiled, never wasted time, and supposedly could make or break a person's career with a single impatient breath. What was he doing here? And why was he asking her, a single mother juggling 2 jobs and barely enough energy to keep her eyelids up, if he could sit with her? What she didn't know, as she hesitated over her cup of watered-down coffee, was that this one moment would rewrite both of their lives in ways neither of them saw coming. She nodded, unsure if she should speak. He sat down with a tired sigh, as if the world had been pulling at the seams of his life too. People stared, some whispering, some curious, but he ignored them completely. She wished she could do the same. Her hands shook a little when she tucked a napkin under the sandwich she was saving for her son, Leo. Adrian's eyes landed on it for a breath too long, then shifted back to her face. You can relax, he said quietly. I'm not here as a CEO. She didn't know what that meant. She didn't know why he was speaking to her at all, and she definitely didn't know that before they left this cafe, he would make an offer that would change everything, one she didn't understand, one she didn't trust, and yet one she desperately needed, because he wouldn't just ask to share her table. He'd insist on paying the bill, and that was only the beginning. The morning had started unfairly, as most mornings did for Mia. Her son's cough was heavier, raspier, and she had to choose between staying home to care for him or going to the cafe for her shift, one of the only ways she could keep their tiny apartment warm in winter. She chose work, promising Leo she'd be back before dinner with his favorite soup. She hated leaving him alone, but the landlord didn't accept apologies as rent. Her shift was supposed to end at 10, but the cafe was overflowing because of a nearby corporate event. The manager begged her to stay longer. She forced a smile and agreed, though her back already begged for rest. When she finally clocked out, all tables were full, her legs were trembling, and she only wanted 5 minutes of quiet before heading home. That was when she spotted the last empty corner table and sank into it. 2 minutes later, he walked in. Adrian Cole had never liked crowds. He didn't like noise, chaos, or conversations he couldn't control. His assistants shielded him from most unnecessary interactions, but tonight he escaped the hotel ballroom filled with investors because he felt suffocated. He wanted a moment to breathe, a moment without questions, demands, or expectations. The cafe wasn't quiet, but it felt real. And the woman sitting alone looked real too. There was an exhaustion in her posture he recognized, one he hid behind tailored suits and boardroom confidence. So when he asked to share her table, he wasn't sure why he waited for her answer like it mattered, but it did. The silence between them was awkward at first. She kept adjusting the napkin around the sandwich. He kept staring at his untouched coffee. Finally, he spoke. You look like someone who's had a long night. She blinked, not sure whether to laugh or cry. Long week, she whispered. He nodded. I get it. She didn't believe that he did. How could a billionaire understand anything about exhaustion that came from survival? But then he surprised her. How old is he? Adrian asked gently. Your son. She froze. How did you? He nodded toward the sandwich with a tiny child sticker on the wrapper. Kids have a way of leaving marks everywhere. Her heart softened before she could stop it. When the bill came, she reached for her wallet automatically. 2 cups of coffee didn't cost much, but she didn't like owing anyone anything, especially someone like him. But before she could open it, he placed his card down with a calm, steady hand. Only if I pay the bill, he said. She frowned. Why? His answer wasn't what she expected. Because you deserve a break. And maybe I do too. Chapter 1 unfolded like a slow unwrapping of truths neither of them meant to reveal. They talked longer than either expected. She told him about Leo, his asthma, his fear of thunderstorms, his dreams of being a pilot. Adrian listened, truly listened, as if nothing else in his life mattered more at that moment. He confessed things too, things he never said aloud. His company was falling apart under pressure. Investors questioned his decisions. He felt alone, isolated, trapped by expectations. People don't sit with me, he admitted. They sit with my name. My money. My power. She didn't flatter him or fear him. She simply existed beside him, human to human. For the first time in years, Adrian felt seen, but the night ended abruptly when Mia received a call, her neighbor panicking, Leo struggling to breathe again. She bolted up so fast she nearly knocked the chair over. "Do you need a ride?" he asked immediately. "No," she said, breathless. "I can manage." But she couldn't. Panic blurred her vision as she rushed outside. He followed her anyway. When she tripped on the curb, he grabbed her arm and steadied her. That was when she finally let herself whisper, "Please, please help me get to him." And Adrian did. He drove faster than he'd ever driven, weaving through traffic, heart pounding with fear for a boy he hadn't met. When they reached her building, she sprinted upstairs, and he followed without hesitation. Leo lay curled on the couch, wheezing, eyes glassy with fever. Adrian's chest tightened painfully at the sight. "Call an ambulance," he said firmly, and she did. While they waited, he knelt beside the boy, brushing damp hair from his forehead with surprising gentleness. "You're okay, little man," he murmured. "Help is coming." When the paramedics arrived, Leo was rushed to the hospital. Mia went with him, trembling, terrified. Adrian turned to follow, and she didn't stop him. For the first time in his life, Adrian Cole spent the night not in a penthouse office, not in a luxury car, not in a conference room, but in a hospital waiting room beside a woman who had nothing, and yet everything he suddenly needed. That was the beginning of Chapter 2. Chapter 2 began with exhaustion, fear, and the kind of fragile hope that only grows in hospital corridors. Leo was stable but needed observation. Mia sat by his bed, her hands never leaving his. Adrian sat quietly in the corner, watching them with an ache he couldn't name. He had never pictured himself in a room like this. No reporters, no contracts, no negotiations. Just a child fighting to breathe and a mother fighting to stay strong. When Mia finally spoke, it was barely a breath. "Why are you still here?" Adrian looked at her with eyes that held secrets he had carried far too long. "Because I didn't want you to go through this alone." Her throat tightened. She wasn't used to kindness. Kindness always came with a price. But something about him, about the raw honesty in his voice, made her believe this wasn't a transaction. They talked again. Softer this time. Closer. She told him about the father who left before Leo was born. About the years she spent working throughout the night, sleeping in buses, missing her own birthdays to earn enough for food and inhalers. Adrian listened with a heaviness he didn't hide. Then he told her the truth he had never dared to say aloud. "I lost my mother because she couldn't afford the care she needed," he said quietly. "I built an empire trying to make sure I'd never feel that helpless again. But somehow, the more success I gained, the lonelier I became." Their eyes met in a moment suspended between pain and connection. By morning, Leo was better. Smiling weakly. Asking who the man in the suit was. "I'm a friend," Adrian said softly. And for once, he meant it. Before they left the hospital, he pulled Mia aside. "I want to help," he said. She shook her head. "You've already helped more than enough." "No. Not even close." His voice trembled, just slightly. "I want to hire you. A real job. Good pay, flexible hours. You're capable, you're dedicated, and you deserve stability." She stared at him, stunned. Why me?" "Because you're exactly the kind of person I want at my company," he said, then, after a pause, "and the kind of person I want in my life." Her breath caught. She didn't answer right away. She didn't trust fairy tales. But when Leo tugged her sleeve and whispered, "Mom," he helped me breathe. Something inside her shifted. She turned back to Adrian with trembling courage. "Okay," she whispered. "But, we build this slowly. One step at a time." His smile was small, fragile, and the most human expression he had worn in years. "Slowly is perfect," he said, And as they walked out of that hospital, Leo holding both their hands, Mia realized that sometimes the person who asks to share your table doesn't just change your night, sometimes they change your life. And for the first time in the longest time, the billionaire and the single mom stepped into a future neither ever expected, but both silently hoped for.